Well, good morning, everybody. Before we get into the new system that's kind of rolling down the west coast today, that's going to be eventually moving through California into Arizona and Mexico and ejecting into the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, I wanted to just step back and look at these last 3 days and just kind of highlight the heavy snow event plus the ice that was to the south of it right in through this particular part of the Midwest. Again, models honed in very well on where this heavy snow band was going to be, and there were a lot of places in here with that 12 to 18 inch range in terms of total snowpack. You can follow this all the way along a lot of I-80 and north of it. And as you go different parts of Wyoming, there are still numerous reports of interstates being shut down and just widespread snow and drifting. So we're seeing a lot of that, not just here in Wyoming, but across this entire region. Now, my main narrative with all of this has been there's water in that snow, but I want to be clear about something. A couple comments on the YouTube videos were spot on. Most of this, is going to melt and run off into the rivers. We took a deep dive last night in the in-depth report into looking at what's going on with the soil temperatures. So we know that we'll lose some of this, but the point is that some of that moisture does get into the soil, and it's good. We need that going into this year. All right, snow deficits in winter are not good in terms of what that might mean for the upcoming growing season. Now, the system that's coming along California is impressive. This is an infrared satellite loop. Let me just take you back here and show it to you. I think I'll just click play on this. And this is a large plume of moisture that's been pushing into California here. So this, again, is infrared satellite data, and the low is right here. And it's going to just take a while to come over parts of Southern California and eventually, by late this weekend, on like Sunday night, move through Arizona and New Mexico. But because of that, the National Weather Service has issued, you can see winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings. We talked about yesterday how this has been the first blizzard warning issued, I think, by the National Weather Service out of Los Angeles. But there's potentially very heavy snow. In today's report, we include their latest graphic, which they suggest that some of the highest peaks down here, like the San Bernardino Mountains, some of them might pick up 7 feet of snow, some of those mountains down here. But there's heavy snow coming throughout the Sierra Nevada as well. Now, wind chill warnings are still in place up north, but there's going to be some pretty significant moderation in these temperatures pretty quickly. And this is all high wind warning, but it's out there, high wind watch. This is all out there, though, for Sunday, and I'll show you when that's going to get here. But first, let's just go have a quick look at the latest high-res model. Now, there could be some very light freezing drizzle in through this part of Texas and Oklahoma today. And this is ahead of a big warm-up once this low that's coming through California finally makes its way out. Now, while that's going on, there's some light snow that's going to move through parts of the upper Midwest. We can see that here, but just keep your eye on the stream of moisture coming in to central and southern California. This is through Saturday night, and we're going to play this all the way out there to Sunday midday. Now, this is before the low has even made its way out of New Mexico yet. So this is Sunday midday, which means we're going to have to watch Sunday night for the speed of this to move possibly into the panhandles and come out here into, into Oklahoma. And by the way, there's another system that's following this. But if we just look and step back and say, what is going on in the west? The next 10 days just continue to put down extremely heavy snow. And what's important about this is that the snow is not only the Cascades, the Klamath Mountains of Sierra Nevada down to the southern ranges, but it also spreads into Nevada and throughout much of the Four Corners states, including the upper Colorado Basin. The models even increase the snowfall amounts in the northern Rockies. What's important about this is what this does to reduce our need on a miracle March. That's important. We're getting the moisture before we get desperate. And in terms of total liquid, the liquid side of this, if you melt it all down, some of these numbers are in the 2 to 4 inch range with the systems that are coming through the western United States. But as we talked about, the first system, though, has got to come out into the plains, and this is what things look like by Sunday evening. Very strong winds moving out of New Mexico into Texas here in southeastern Colorado. These winds could be 50 to 70 miles an hour. This will be the position of the dry line, and that's what the concern is into parts of Oklahoma on severe weather. The latest SPC outlook for day 3, so this would be Sunday, suggests this area right in through here is going to have the highest risk here. They've currently got it set at their enhanced risk status, and I wouldn't second guess them kind of upgrading this given the current setup of this system. It's potent, and the wind shear profile is ideal for what could happen there. Now, we'll go look at that in the models in a second, but I want to show you what the next 7 days looks like. There was an important shift in the European model, actually moved more toward the GFS solution on a system at the end of next week. That's going to slide possibly farther to the south, but this map just kind of shows us where the heaviest precipitation is going to be. So if you just kind of notice, it's centered on the Ohio, Mississippi, Missouri basin in this part of the country. And it's drier throughout the Canadian Prairie, Northern Plains. It's drier in the southern plains here. In fact, we expect to see another large dust storm. And the subtropical ridge is still dominating along the Gulf Coast into Florida, where it's expected to be drier as well. So here's our multi-model analysis. Let's do this relatively quickly. We've already seen through right about here. This is midday Sunday. Now what we're going to watch is right in this area, both in the GFS and the European. You can see the models by Sunday evening, getting into the overnight hours, are kicking out that low. And that's where we're going to have to keep an eye on Sunday evening for the risk of the severe storms, and it could move a bit farther to the north. Now this low quickly moves toward the Great Lakes, and if it has a chance for spreading some snow, it's primarily going to be in Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, UP. A lot of warm air out ahead of this is bringing in storms, showers and storms into this area of the Midwest. And then this is the low that could possibly have enough cold air on the northern side of it to add some snow into the interior of New England. We'll take a look at those totals in a moment. But the next low is already coming down the west coast. So you can see it here adding more snow. And then that low comes out. And this is what's different about it. The models, I'm looking over here at the European. The models eject a much weaker wave in lieu of a deeper one that follows late next week. So that's Wednesday. It's this one I'm concerned about, next Friday. Now the models, look at this. This is where the GFS puts it. This is where the European puts it a week from now. Earlier, the European had this system way farther to the north and running through very similar to the other one. So this really increases the precip for the Mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, the Appalachian Mountains, the Tennessee Valley, down into the southeast. And the pattern's just not done. It's going to keep going because I don't have anything to kind of knock it out. So a few maps to summarize here. First one is the probability of getting at least an inch of liquid over the next 10 days. So we've got our two main sectors here and here. We then look at the chances for getting at least 6 inches of snow. Now this map isn't valid for the west because some of these totals are going to be huge in the west. We're primarily using it to identify this track right in through here as the best chances of picking up heavy snow. And into New England, just to kind of give you a zoomed in map. Again, this is that second system rolling through here, possibly putting down 8 to 10 plus inches of snow, maybe getting into Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I mean, that would be a first big snow for these areas in a while. I was talking to a friend and colleague of mine that lives here, and he says there's just nothing this year. This would be a big late season snowfall event. Now, temperatures before we see where this pattern's going. This is Friday's highs compared to normal. Watch by Saturday into Sunday the rebound that's happening in the northern plains, the rebound that's happening underneath that broad southeastern ridge. And this is the setup on Sunday for destabilizing the atmosphere in this region we're keeping a close eye on. Because quickly the cooler air is going to advance, the drier air is going to hit that warm moist air from the Gulf and set this up. And then as we play forward here, it all resets on Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. So you see this pattern is on this wash, rinse, repeat cycle because nothing has disrupted the deeper troughs over the west and the southeastern ridge. So we look longer to see if there's something out there that can do it. And playing the 5-day sliding window of temperature anomalies now through the first full week of March and into the second week of March, the models still want to advance some of that colder air into the Canadian prairie and the plains of the United States encroaching on the Midwest. But before I can put any stock in this, I just need to see how dominant the southeast ridge is at pushing this cold air out. There's certainly cold air there to be moved around, and as we discussed last night, you look globally across the northern hemisphere at least, there's no cold air compared to average sitting over Siberia and Russia. It's not over Scandinavia. It's not over, Greenland. It's primarily focused in a few areas here. And therefore, there is cold air to move, but we have to get a feature out of the way called the southeast ridge to do it. And so I'm unclear as to whether or not that's possible given the current setup right now. To finish this up, just a quick update again on South America. Extremely heavy rain has been falling in central Brazil. The crop is very green, and DVI values are at the highest they've been in 20 years. This is an area where if the rain does not slow down soon, the harvest is going to continue to get later and later. There's drought issues in Rio Grande do Sul. As we talked about last night, NDVI values have been falling off due to drought in the main growing areas right in through here in Argentina. And that's going to continue to be a problem because the next 15 days are forecast drier for that area. In fact, the model doubled down again on the dryness right here. I mean, this is a critical area between Cordoba, Santa Fe, Buenos Aires, like Rosario. I mean, this is a critical area to see this dry air coming in. And there's also very warm temperatures building back into this area. And you can see where it's wet. To the north, this will help the finish of the harvest of soybeans, the planting of safrinha corn, and the longer range models want to fill this back in with rain as we get through the month of March. So that's a positive signal there. But back in the United States, we look at that long range forecast from the European model. What I think has to happen in order for colder air to advance is that this feature, that's the southeast ridge, has to leave. So I'll be watching that all weekend. I'll report back again on Monday. Until then, have a good rest of your weekend. Thanks.